In April 2025, the United States government sent a letter to Wikipedia accusing Wikipedia of sharing misinformation, spreading propaganda, and engaging in various kinds of misconduct. This letter threatened to remove Wikipedia's nonprofit and charity status. I'm going to talk about that letter, and while talking about that letter, I'm going to give you a tour of Wikipedia's processes for quality control and preventing the spread of misinformation. How do you do? My name is Lane Raspberry. I edit Wikipedia as Blue Raspberry. If you'd like to get information about current events in Wikipedia, I recommend that you check out Wikipedia's newspaper. It's called The Signpost, and it's a volunteer-written journalist publication about Wikipedia aimed especially for Wikipedia community members. And the particular story that I'm addressing today is this one from May 1st, 2025, Feds aiming for Wikimedia Foundation's nonprofit status. What's happening is that there's a politician. At the time, this person was the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, and he sent this letter. We have it archived in Wikipedia. To whom it may concern, I'm the United States Attorney. I'm going to read a section of this. Wikipedia is permitting information manipulation on its platform, including the rewriting of key historical events, masking propaganda that influences public opinion under the guise of providing informational material is antithetical to Wikipedia's educational mission. And at the bottom of this letter, it's got questions, and the Wikimedia Foundation has to answer those questions by a certain date. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to read and answer these 12 questions, and I don't represent Wikipedia. The Wikimedia Foundation, which is the nonprofit organization and steward of Wikipedia, they have to answer these. But Wikipedia is the encyclopedia that anyone can edit, and also anyone can have their own conversations about Wikipedia. I am an experienced Wikipedia community member. I'm opinionated, and what I'm going to do is give you opinions. And in the course of this, I think that while not everyone would agree with me, I have valid opinions, and I can explain some of the basics about Wikipedia. So let's get to it. The first question in this list is, what mechanisms does the Wikimedia Foundation have in place to fulfill its legal and ethical responsibilities to safeguard the public from the dissemination of propaganda? Now, I'm going to give specific examples, but just to start off, I'm going to say that the best answer to this question is not to explain in absolute terms what it is that Wikipedia does, but rather to compare what Wikipedia does with other platforms. Definitely, it's easy to find flaws in Wikipedia, things that people wish could be better, but it's not fair to compare Wikipedia to something in your mind, something imaginary, something that can't exist in the world, something that would be too expensive to produce. What you should compare Wikipedia to is the other major tech companies and platforms, the other sources of information, and consider the extent to which Wikipedia compares favorably with these or has shortcomings with these. So when anyone wants to ask, how does Wikipedia safeguard the public from disinformation? It's fair to ask, how does Google protect the public from misinformation? What about all the popular social media platforms? What are they doing to protect the public from misinformation? Another part of this question is, what is the Wikimedia Foundation's long-standing hands-off policy regarding trust and safety, content moderation, and editor misconduct? What does the Wikimedia Foundation do to prevent conduct? So let me explain some basics of Wikipedia. Wikipedia is volunteer written, so anyone can edit Wikipedia. You can create an account and post to Wikipedia just in the way that people create accounts and post to other social media platforms. But in Wikipedia, people have much less private, personal profile space. So in a typical social media account, like Instagram or Twitter, a person can post their own content, and their content is not subject to fact-checking or moderation. In Wikipedia, people don't have these kinds of personal spaces for them to post content. You can only post content within a Wikipedia article. And as soon as a user, they post content within a Wikipedia article, then anybody in the world can fact check that, anyone in the world can criticize it, and anyone in the world can edit it further. If they have complaints, then they can log a complaint against a user for sharing this information. They can put a complaint in the article, or they can just call for fact checking. I'm going to give some more specific examples about how this works, but I'd like to begin this conversation by encouraging you to make comparisons between Wikipedia and any other platform. It happens that if someone shares misinformation in other platforms, it's hard to call somebody out. It's hard to fact check people. It's hard for a person to go through the entirety of a social media platform and look at everything that's said on a topic and share alternative perspectives, or say whether something's a fringe view, or compare what people are saying in most social media platforms with what expert, established, reliable sources say. In Wikipedia, these things are much, much easier. Wikipedia is designed for community fact-checking. I don't expect to convince anyone who doesn't like Wikipedia that Wikipedia is good, but I do think that there's plenty of evidence and lots of ways to make the argument that whatever you think about Wikipedia, Wikipedia is still the best source of information. It's the best because it's easier to fact check it than it is to fact check personal websites that people post, things that people publish on social media. Wikipedia keeps a permanent public record of every complaint that anyone has ever posted in its discussion forums. And if I were to go to another website, like ask Facebook or ask Google to give me the list of all complaints that they've ever received, they simply wouldn't do it. They go out of their way to make it so that the public cannot access the complaints that other people have about them. So people can give their complaints to Google, but Google does not return those complaints. There's no particular way to give your complaint to Wikipedia that Wikipedia does not make permanently public. If you want to see every complaint that anyone's ever posted about Wikipedia, they're not deleted. They're still there in the platform for anyone to read, analyze, and study. So let's begin there. I think Wikipedia is it compares favorably to other options. So question 2. Regarding trust and safety, what does the Wikimedia Foundation provide in terms of employees and contractors, budget, day-to-day oversight, and enforcement mechanisms for the purposes of content moderation and the actioning of editor misconduct? Again, Wikipedia is remarkably public. So here we are, Wikimedia Foundation, the organizational chart. It's there on the website, and you can see all the employees of the Wikimedia Foundation. I will say it's fair to say that it's hard to interpret this information. This information is not connected to a budget. I personally have criticized the Wikimedia Foundation for not being more transparent about public budget information. But the evidence is there that Wikipedia is more transparent about its budget, what it does with its money, than any other organization. So even though I criticize a bit, it's easy for me to say that Wikipedia is more transparent about who it hires and what it does with its money than so many other organizations. And this is beyond what's legally required. Wikipedia is quite transparent. Now, that question, in terms of employees, for content moderation, there's a group of Wikimedia Foundation employees. They're in something called Trust and Safety. This is the most famous accessible group for content moderation. And if anyone wants to contact them, then there they are. There's a place on the website for anyone to contact them. Trust and safety is still not the primary defense against propaganda in Wikipedia. The power in Wikipedia is in the control of the volunteer community of editors. So anyone who's asking about the staff of the Wikimedia Foundation, they have a misunderstanding. So there's the Wikimedia Foundation, which is the registered legal entity that is steward of Wikipedia and related Wikimedia projects. They host the website. They're the ones that do the fundraising drive. They ask for your donation, and they give that money back to the community. They spend some themselves too. And they employ staff like Trust and Safety. Trust and Safety speaks for itself. I'm not with Trust and Safety. I'm not with the Wikimedia Foundation at all. The entire Wikimedia Foundation speaks for itself. But just to let you know, if a typical Wikipedian goes to Trust and Safety, they're probably not going to get any support from that organization. So Trust and Safety is helpful if someone's violently threatening you because you've edited a Wikipedia article. But if you're having a dispute or a conflict or encounter someone who's being rude or mean, then you get peer-to-peer volunteer support from the Wikipedia community of editors itself. That's the line of defense. So I appreciate this question from this government employee who's asking about Wikipedia. But to ask about the staff of the foundation, it's not the right question to ask to get the information that they're going for. I'll say something else beyond Trust and Safety. There's other teams at the Wikimedia Foundation that provide responses to misconduct. So Trust and Safety is for safety, reports of danger. If someone reports danger, chances are they'll also go to the legal team of the Wikimedia Foundation, the lawyers. So that has some overlap with safety, but they do other things as well. There's also something called the Human Rights Team at the Wikimedia Foundation. This is an advocacy team. This works with legal. This works with Trust and Safety. But they're coming from the perspective of human rights, access to information, freedom from persecution, the freedom of people to express themselves. So human rights is a discipline. It's a field. They take that particular approach. The last team of the Wikimedia Foundation that I'll mention is public policy, advocacy, lobbying, legislation. Sometimes safety issues come up with this, like what is your right to privacy? The public policy team would have opinions on that. They do a lot of things that have nothing to do with safety, like what is Wikipedia's position on copyright and sharing media, your right to publish things online. But Trust and Safety, legal, human rights, public policy, together, that is what the Wikimedia Foundation does to hire staff to address misconduct. But again, almost all, 99% of misconduct issues, they're handled by volunteer Wikipedia community members. Question 3. How does the Wikimedia Foundation ensure transparency and accountability about the editorial practices in Wikipedia? Best answer, my answer as a Wikipedia community member, the Wikimedia Foundation does not ensure transparency and accountability. Or rather, the Wikimedia Foundation does what the wiki community of volunteers directs it to do, or it follows the governance of the Wikipedia community. I'm going to give an example. So here's the basic example you want, the quality control process in Wikipedia. Let's look at a controversial Wikipedia article together. So I have no positions on this, but I hope that this is widely identifiable as a controversial topic in Wikipedia. Israeli-Palestinian conflict. How is it that everybody in the world who wants to edit about this Wikipedia article, they have to come to this particular Wikipedia article? There are no personal profiles. If you have something to say about this topic and you want to do it in Wikipedia, you have to come to this Wikipedia article and do it. Okay, for transparency, so look at me. So here I am in the Wikipedia article. If anyone has a complaint about this Wikipedia article, they can click talk, and you can say whatever you want about the quality control and editorial decisions and the sources being cited in this article. So we have so many archives of requests where people say things, different editorial essays, where people say, here's what's been decided, here's recurring issues that people bring up continuously. And if anybody says that this article is biased in any way, this is the editorial log of where people can express whatever they have to express. And those complaints will be publicly, permanently available for anyone to read and analyze, build a case of any bias against the Wikipedia editorial community, if one exists, or talk through whatever might be wrong with this article. So this is our process. Be transparent, save every complaint that we ever get. And if someone wants to look at all these complaints together and build a case that something could be better in Wikipedia, then we try to improve based on what people decide in this talk page. I'm going to click another button here. So here I am back at the main article. I'm going to click View History. And the history to which this refers is the editorial history of every change that's ever been made to this Wikipedia article. You might have heard that Wikipedia is the encyclopedia that anyone can edit. And every time someone edits the Wikipedia article, if they're removing content, it gets this red number of how many characters or letters they've removed. If they're adding content, it gets this green number. You can see people adding content, removing content. Things are changing all the time. Every edit that anyone's ever done, it's logged here. Public permanent record. And if somebody wanted to see data visualizations of who are all these people, what are they all up to, you can click page statistics, so many charts, top 10 editors by edit count, top 10 editors by how much content they've added. You can do your own data analysis to see who's engaged in this article. Are there secret propaganda people wandering around here? Well, the data is all there. So you can find all the articles for any topic that you want and analyze it in any way. The original question was, how does the Wikimedia Foundation ensure transparency and accountability in what's happening? Well, we publish all the records of everything that's been done. And compare Wikipedia to any other website. If someone were to ask social media platforms, can you give us a list of all the content you've deleted because it's propaganda? Can you give us a list of all the times that anyone's ever complained about you sharing propaganda? The other web platforms, social media platforms, they don't have a process for sharing this. Wikipedia has its own approach to transparency and quality control and fairness. And all of this is designed with the Wikipedia volunteer community of editors. Next question, question 4. What steps has the Wikimedia Foundation taken to exclude foreign influence operations from making targeted edits to categories of content in order to reshape or rewrite history? Again, I'm going to refer everyone to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict article, but you can go there. This isn't the first time Israel and Palestine have been in conflict. You can read other conflicts in that region of the world. You can also read about so many wars in Wikipedia. You can look at every war that's covered in Wikipedia. You can look at every conflict that you can imagine to see where are the propaganda influencers infiltrating Wikipedia. Who might they be and what did they add exactly? And in the history of Wikipedia, Wikipedia was established in 2001. There just hasn't been a case where someone has shared broad propaganda in Wikipedia and it slipped by undetected or no one's complained about it and it stood in Wikipedia. So I challenge you to go into Wikipedia's editorial logs, into the talk page discussions. You can even leave Wikipedia and find complaints everywhere. And I challenge you to find a case where Wikipedia has been corrupted by propaganda. There are some cases that you can find. I don't think they're the strongest cases. Most of the cases that have been the most disruptive, they have not been in English language. So one famous case, and I'll share this one. This is in Croatian language Wikipedia. So if you speak Serbian, if you speak Croatian, there was a case where people sharing fascist information took over a smaller language version Wikipedia and put propaganda into it. So this is a shortcoming in Wikipedia. It's stronger in English language, but did you know that Wikipedia exists in about 300 languages? Each one of those languages has their own editorial community. So people who only use English language, they're not very good at editing Croatian language. And it happened that the Croatian language Wikipedia was a mix of being a smaller community. It had a coordinated government effort to take over its community and share fascist, violent, oppressive information. Some bullying happened of the Wikipedia editors who were there. But if you look at the numbers of how many people it took to take over Croatian language Wikipedia, we're talking about a handful of editors, because there were only a handful of editors editing in Croatian language anyway. So I'm sorry that it happened, but it's hard to police all the content in every language of the world. I think Wikipedia is pretty robust in English language. In response to Croatian language Wikipedia, we have better mechanisms for small language versions of Wikipedia to report problems, to get translation and get support if anyone's being bullied. And this is a new surprise of the internet. So we're doing the best we can. Hold us accountable as Wikipedia editors to do better. But foreign influence operations that affect the United States, I'm just not aware of them. Please find your best cases and report them. Next question. What policy does the Foundation have in place to ensure that content submissions, editorial decisions, and article revisions reflect a broad spectrum of viewpoints? Good grief. The Wikipedia community talks so much about diversity, geographic inclusion, inclusion of minorities. You can look at the conference program for every conference that we've ever had. Wikipedia has a conference, somebody in the world, nearly every month, and it has for 10 or 15 years. Plus, we have a big international conference. The topic that's more discussed than anything else in the entire Wikipedia community is how do we support underrepresented and especially underprivileged demographics of people to share their stories in Wikipedia better. When you donate to Wikipedia, your donation goes to lower and middle income countries, people who have less money in their economies. So lots of donations come from the United States. They go all around the world. And this goes to governance processes where groups of volunteers are organized to say, we want to spend money this way. That's not in partnership exactly with the Wikimedia Foundation. So the Wikimedia Foundation is a grant-making organization. When you have a community of volunteers who independently of the foundation comes up with a strategic plan and says, here's the content we want to edit. We want to develop our language community's content and our cultural content, and then integrate that with the multilingual network of Wikimedia content. So the Wikimedia Foundation, they disperse the grants and encourage reporting and quality control. But if that's in place, volunteers have full editorial decision-making governance processes. So diversity, well represented in Wikipedia. Lots of documentation about this. Read it as much as you like. There's plenty published. Question number 6. What is the Foundation's official process for addressing credible allegations that editors or contributors have materially misled readers engaged in bad faith edits? I am unaware of a case in which the Wikimedia Foundation has meaningfully intervened in the volunteer editorial community's editorial process. Volunteers on Wikipedia, they decide the governance, they set the editorial process, they write the rules, they make all the editorial judgments and decisions. If you edit Wikipedia, you are very unlikely to interact with anyone at the Wikimedia Foundation or any process that comes from the Wikimedia Foundation. This is pretty wild stuff, but I'll give the analogy. It would be like, imagine if Facebook were managed by Facebook users, or people who post YouTube videos were allowed to run YouTube. That's a wild idea. But in the case of Wikipedia, it works this way to a great extent. In the case of any of these other tech companies, it just doesn't work that way. I'm going to tell you the story. There was this Uber driver, and he was driving the taxi. And one day he got a low rating. So he was late on the drive. He did a bad job, and someone complained about him. And from that point forward, he did his best to make sure that he was a good taxi driver. He kept a clean taxi. He was very friendly to all the guests, and people started giving him good reviews. And he got so many good reviews that he became the CEO of Uber. Okay, of course, this didn't happen. It's absolutely ridiculous. You cannot be so popular on Facebook that you get to run Facebook. You can't have the YouTube video that's so popular that you get to be a C-level executive at YouTube. It just doesn't happen. In Wikipedia, the community elects people to the board of trustees. These people oversee the budget. They hire the executive director. Wikipedia has community governance. Compare it to other platforms. You don't, again, have to say that Wikipedia is good, but the evidence is there that Wikipedia includes its user community to an extent that the other platforms just would never think of doing. Question 7. Does the Foundation maintain a public, formally adopted policy explicitly prohibiting hateful content and conduct by editors? Yes. Let's take a look at it. Look at this. Universal Code of Conduct. The Wikimedia Foundation, they sponsored diverse perspectives in the development of this. This is still something that came from the Wikipedia community. I encourage anyone who's interested in online codes of conduct to read this. It's the best code of conduct in the world. You can even compare it to other codes of conduct because we listed a lot of them. We did research on all these other codes of conducts. So here's a list of other codes of conducts for you to check. I encourage you to compare the Wikipedia Code of Conduct with any of the other ones. Does the Foundation maintain this Code of Conduct? No. Does the Wikipedia community maintain it? Yes. Does the Foundation support the Wikipedia community's decision to use this Code of Conduct? Yes. This is a living document. It's always being developed. There's always new processes going on with it. It's pretty cool. Next question. Given growing public concerns regarding the large-scale manipulation of particular categories of content by ideologically motivated editors, what safeguards exist to detect and prevent undue influence by individuals or coordinated networks who use editorial or administrative authority to systematically distort content? The best answer I have to this is that it beggars belief to imagine that a group of people who want to spread propaganda could infiltrate Wikipedia, overcome the editorial process, put misinformation into Wikipedia, and not have lots of complaints, lots of people call for that content's removal, scholarly, academic, journalist critiques pointing out the flaws of Wikipedia. Wikipedia is under so much observation and criticism. If there were systematic attacks on Wikipedia, if a government were to hire a bunch of agents to come in and corrupt Wikipedia, somebody would squeal. Somebody would put evidence down. We just don't have a case study of this ever happening. I'm going to show you some people who do misconduct on Wikipedia. If you want to see examples of people who systematically try to distort Wikipedia, you can take a look at these people. You can take a look at this content. So what I've got here is list of hoaxes on Wikipedia. This isn't a Wikipedia article. This is an internal administrative page on Wikipedia. These are hoaxes that have existed, by how long they've existed. You can read documentation about how the hoaxes were discovered, who was involved in them, how did people get them, and I encourage you, examine this list to see what hoaxes have been around long, how did they slip by. I'll tell you what these hoaxes have in common. The hoaxes that go undetected for the longest are the most boring. We don't have cases of somebody going into very popular Wikipedia articles about topics that people care about, putting misinformation there, and then disrupting anything of importance. So a lot of these hoaxes, somebody makes up a historical event about a topic that isn't popular among historians or amateurs. They sneak it into Wikipedia. There's people who sneak themselves into Wikipedia somehow, or change names or change years of things. you read the list of hoaxes for yourself, but what we don't see in the list of hoaxes are high-level political conflicts where someone's sharing propaganda or where these people are government agents. If you find one, please add it to these list of hoaxes so that it would be easier to discuss these kinds of things. I will say, as far as propaganda, there's controversial topics in Wikipedia. Look up the Wikipedia articles about vaping, electronic cigarettes. I've suspected that people associated with cigarettes and smoking have tried to put information in to advocate for cigarettes. But it's hard for me to tell about these things because there's some people who really believe in their right to smoke cigarettes and to vape inside doors, in hospitals, in the airplanes. And they go to the e-cigarette article and they say the craziest stuff. You can look at the talk page for yourself. Also, in the Israel and Palestine article, undoubtedly there's people on all sides of the issue who advocate for the perspective that they have, and they have trouble reconciling their views with the perspectives of the other side. I'm in the United States. I'm not so involved in this conflict except by being a citizen. My country is involved in every conflict to some extent. Sorry about that. I don't know anything about these conflicts, and I'm sorry. It's hard for me to go into Wikipedia and see propaganda here. What I see is passionate people advocating for their perspectives. I don't know how to do a better editorial process. What we try to do in Wikipedia is let every side present their perspective in a respectful and civil way, and we enforce civility and quality control and publishing reliable sources without opinions and without one side oppressing the other. We do our best to field this. I think we do a better job than other social media platforms. Question 9. There's public criticisms regarding the opacity of editorial processes. What does the foundation offer for shielding editors from public scrutiny? And second question here, what measures does the foundation take to assess the integrity and competence of senior editors and administrators? So let's go back to our example. How does the Wikimedia Foundation protect people's personal identities? So here, these are usernames. This is a funny name that this person made up. Funny name that this person made up. If I were to click these usernames, these are user handles, these are Wikipedia names, we go to the profile page that the person has set up about themselves. There's an expectation on the internet that people have a certain amount of privacy. And I'm not going to go into much detail about this, but I'll say it's not unusual for people to post on Instagram or Twitter with a funny name that may not be readily connectable to the name on their legal identification card from their government. And in Wikipedia, we let people make these user handles. And there's a certain amount of privacy that's associated with that. So I'm not going to discuss what the limits of online privacy should be, but I will say that right now, 2025, it's a thing that typical people in the world have an expectation that they can make a funny internet name, they can go into websites, and they can publish perspectives. When people do this in Wikipedia, we associate all their edits with their user account. So to the extent that they have a persistent identity, you can see all the edits that come from an account. If you have a persistent identity in Wikipedia, then that facilitates the ease with which you can have editorial conversations with other people. And in Wikipedia, interpersonal relationships matter because you're continually having to discuss your editorial decisions and your editorial process with other people. Wikipedia is a human-to-human platform, so relationships matter. Whether people should have online privacy, I believe that most people in the world think that there should be some amount of online privacy. So I'm just going to answer that question to say Wikipedia's expectations for online privacy, they're pretty aligned with how it is elsewhere on the internet. And if anybody wants to make the argument that there should be no such thing as online privacy, or that the government should always know what everyone's doing online, then be bold about saying that. That's a hot take. That's just not normal, and that's not what typical people want at this time. What measures does the foundation take to address senior editors and administrators? And let me show you. So if you want to be senior in Wikipedia, we call senior people janitors. We call them janitors. We say that they have the mop because seniority in Wikipedia means that you get to go clean up messes. From a certain perspective, you could say that there's prestige and power associated with this, but there's a lot of checks on that power. I'm not an administrator. I don't have the mop. I've been editing Wikipedia for about 20 years. So just because you've been there for a long time doesn't mean that you're an admin. Let's take a look at what someone had to go through to get admin rights. So here's this poor soul. What an awful process. They introduced themselves. Thank you. I don't know this person. I haven't looked at this before. I just know the process is awful. They get asked these questions. They got to answer all these questions. I don't know anyone who says that this doesn't make them nervous. Most people say that this is a stressful process. Okay. And then there's votes and critiques on them. Here's people who are supporting them. Look at this. And these people, this is a systematic review of this person's editorial history and integrity. This is what it takes to get advanced editorial rights in Wikipedia. Okay. Opposition. You have to be nice to people in Wikipedia. We have that code of conduct that I mentioned. This is the nicest way to have people rip you to pieces. It's certainly civil, but nobody likes to get this kind of criticism. And look at this. If we printed this out on paper, this is so many people. You did this wrong. You did this wrong in very civil ways. So that's 57 heartfelt complaints about the personal and editorial integrity of this person. Even the neutral votes. I'm not going to vote to support you. I'm not going to vote against you. Can be. It's civil. It's a process. It's a process. This is the best process we were able to come up with. But no one should say that we're not thoughtful and thorough about this editorial process. I've never put myself through this. I don't recommend that anyone put themselves through editorial review in Wikipedia. Thank you for everyone who volunteered for this. Thanks for Eggroll 97. This was a successful request for adminship. Thank you for cleaning up messes with your mop. I really appreciate what you do. I use admin services all the time. It's not that I don't use admin services in Wikipedia, but I request them, and volunteers give this to me as peer-to-peer support. Next question. Given the anonymity protections presently afforded to all Wikipedia editors, what internal safeguards or enforcement mechanisms exist to prevent such users from creating new accounts and resuming the same impermissible practices? So supposing someone's up to no good, and an administrator that I just showed you, they bust them. They say, look at all this bad conduct you've been doing. We're going to block you from Wikipedia. And that blocked person, they come back to Wikipedia, they make another account, and then they get up to the same shenanigans. What's up with that? Okay, we have a special name for these people. Look at this. What am I doing here? So if you're someone with a bad attitude and you've got a really, really bad take on something, then we call these people who make multiple accounts, we call them sock puppeteers. And they're operating sock puppets. Look at this little guy. Okay. I think that we should add all this foreign propaganda to Wikipedia. And they come up with this other account. Oh yes, I agree with that. We should cite all these platforms that share all this hate information, and there should be no gay people, and climate change isn't real, and all vaccines are very dangerous. You shouldn't trust your government. Don't be patriotic. And you should side with the enemy in a war. It's completely... People do this every day. People have done this hundreds of thousands of times. People share propaganda more commonly than sharing propaganda. Let me show you what they really get up to, these people. If you want to read this for laughs, we have a list of long-term abuse in Wikipedia. These are people, frankly, who have some kind of social problem, creating dozens of Wikipedia accounts, hundreds of Wikipedia accounts to get up to something. Okay, so this person, they go to Wikipedia articles relating to film and music, especially about Thomas Dolby, the movie called The Blob, and the band called The Cars, and they put false credits there. Why do they get up to this? Changing genres and categories at rock music articles. Extensive edit warning. So if they're saying it's extensive on this page, it's like it's mind-numbingly extensive. You don't know how extensive and how obsessive the people who what you have to do to get listed on this page. It's some crazy stuff. Addition of poorly sourced information of animals to articles about zoos. Disruption to music-related articles. Check it out for yourself. If you want to know how these people get treated, they get caught. It's completely obvious. 381 sock puppet accounts blocks. 381 of those socks for this person. Up to shenanigans. Received media attention. Yeah, they get caught, and they do this typically by editing articles that fewer people are reading. Next question. What third-party entities, including but not limited to artificial intelligence, large language model companies, and search engines, has the Wikimedia Foundation contracted to use, redistribute, or process Wikimedia content? This is its own thing. The Wikimedia Foundation, so this is not the Wikimedia community. The Wikimedia Foundation has this commercial entity. It's called Wikimedia Enterprise. They sell access to data that is already public. They do not sell any private data. So if you imagine public access to Wikipedia, anyone can go to Wikipedia, download all these data sets, download copies of Wikipedia. But supposing you want extra fast access to the exact same public data, you can give the Wikimedia Foundation money. They will sell you access to this information. The most famous client, the most prominent client is Google. Google gives money to the Wikimedia Foundation for extra fast access to Wikipedia edits. That's the answer to the question. Who reprocesses Wikimedia content? Google and people through Wikimedia Enterprise. There may be other information. This is what's known to the wiki community. But the next question is related. When editors or the foundation delete content which was found to be harmful or illegal, but has already been shared with third parties, including search engine and large language model companies, what steps does the foundation follow in order to repair the downstream effects of that content on search results and data already used to train LLMs? I'm not a fan of Wikimedia Enterprise because I'm not a fan of collaborating with Google. The reason why I'm not a fan of collaborating with Google is there's a Wikipedia article on this, criticism of Google. There's all these bad things about Google. Google collaborates with the U.S. military. Google actually collaborates with lots of militaries around the world. Google is a military contractor. It's not just a tech company. It works with militaries. And I disapprove of the Wikimedia Foundation's partnership with the military. I don't like the idea of supporting military efforts or supporting companies that don't align with the values of the Wikipedia community. But to say that the Wikimedia Foundation, if someone shares propaganda in Wikipedia, that we as a free nonprofit organization have a responsibility to do quality control and fact checking for internet companies that are stealing our content and putting it into AI and training AI on it. So I'm aware that Wikipedia has an open copyright license, and I'm aware that we say that the content is open for public use. But despite this, open copyright never imagined the advent of AI, and it never imagined the advent of some tech companies who would collaborate with military. And I don't trust any of these tech companies to not attack people of their own countries. I'm aware that AI is entangled with military, and so many people who talk about artificial intelligence say we need artificial intelligence to protect us in war. If other people are developing AI, then we need AI to attack our enemies' AI. I'm not really scared of being invaded by other countries. I think the bigger threat, and what history has shown, is that governments are more likely to use their military to attack the citizens of that country than they are to attack other people with it. And I appreciate my country's military defending us from other countries, but I'm also scared of my country's military turning on the citizens, turning on us, and then attacking us. And I think that tech companies like Google, they're not trustworthy. I think if a particular leader told Google that we're now going to start attacking citizens of the United States, then the Google would attack the United States. And I think it's the same with absolutely every other tech company. You just pick all the tech companies. Actually, pick every company in every industry. I think they're all ready to attack the citizens of their own countries. So I don't like this intermingling, but to say that Wikipedia is responsible if misinformation comes into Wikipedia, that all these companies that are taking content out of Wikipedia, not paying us any money, not sharing any money, never contributed anything to the development of Wikipedia over the past, since 2001, Wikipedia has never had a relationship with any tech company that you can think of. They're all been using Wikipedia this entire time, never given anything back. We have no friends in any tech company. They don't socialize with us at conferences. They don't come to our meetups. They don't respond to our editorial and ethical and social critiques of how they interact with us. I don't approve of Google or anyone else slurping up the entirety of Wikipedia and putting it in AI. They're all bad actors doing bad things. That's my personal opinion. But to say that they're not responsible for what they slurp up out of Wikipedia, but Wikipedia is responsible for being the victim of theft from these companies, I'm not having it. Wrong perspective. The U.S. government is off on these things. So thanks for hearing me out for my opinions as I've gone through this letter. Again, I'm not part of the Wikimedia Foundation. I've shared a bunch of opinions. And part of the reason why I've shared all these opinions is because I want to encourage you to share your social and ethical perspectives about what's right and wrong, to talk with other humans individually and in networks about what's right and wrong, because we could be coming very close to a time when all these tech companies are observing everything that you're doing online, and you have to say the right thing because they're all sharing propaganda. I think Wikipedia is one of the last places where humans can collaborate with other humans without the intervention of big governments and big corporations spreading propaganda. And I don't like the government or anyone else accusing Wikipedia of not being a human volunteer community governed platform, especially when the other alternatives are so much less trustworthy, so much more misanthropic, so much more unwilling to subject themselves to ethical and social review in the way that Wikipedia is. I don't expect you to say that Wikipedia is good, but again, I expect you to look at the evidence that Wikipedia is doing more in these areas than the other platforms are. Thank you so much for hearing me out. Again, I'm Lane Raspberry. If you want to contact me, feel free to reach out. If you have questions about Wikipedia, if you have your own opinions, post them in Wikipedia. Go to any of these places that I've shown you today. They will all accept your comment. If you want to have a conversation on any topic about anything, Wikipedia is always open, And I assure you, if you go to any Wikipedia talk page on any topic, you will always find somebody who is ready to argue with you on that topic. Thank you very much.